What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. Real quick housekeeping note: if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble channel, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And also, if you're listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and all the other podcast platforms out there, please hit that follow and subscribe button. Helps us show up in your scrolls, and so you know when the new episodes are up, and you could catch interviews like the one I'm about to have right now with Mr. Stephen Rice of the band Kill Ritual. How you doing, Stephen?
Good. I'm good.
Nice. So, usually when I have somebody on for the first time, I like to get a quick background. Sure. I know you guys got a lot going on right now, but before we get into that, originally, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Porn star, actually. No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, when I was a kid, I always wanted to, probably the first thing I ever wanted to be when I was a kid was probably an astronaut. I'd probably say, oh, that would be kind of cool to go into space and go to the moon. That was short-lived till about maybe 8 years old. And then, probably when I was about 10 years old, I kind of really discovered my love for music and whatever else. I had a real kind of like the first record I ever got was like Elton John's Yellow Brick Road, and then after that it was over with. I mean, I picked a good one. It was like really great songwriting, musicianship, and high caliber stuff. And then my dad had a guitar, and he had a guitar that he had bought when he was younger, and he stashed it away up in the attic, and he brought it out one day and said, "Hey man, I got a guitar and an amplifier, go at." And then that was it. Worst thing he ever did.
Yeah, I'd gone through that later in my teen years. I think I went through that porn star phase too, but
well, then you whip out the ruler and you're like, it ain't happening.
Yeah. My Irish German heritage really wasn't favoring my my ability to be one of those big stars, but oh well, that's why I talk now a lot. But so your dad kind of gets the guitar out of the attic and passes the turns over the King Arthur's sword or whatever, basically. You're like, you take it, you're ready to go.
He never played. I'm all, Dad, why do you have this guitar? Why do you have this amplifier? Why do you have this songbook or whatever teaching you the basic music? So when I was younger, I thought maybe it would be really cool that I could play guitar to pick up on chicks and stuff. I'm like, all right, that's a perfect idea. And then he bought it at some pawn shop back in the day, and then but it worked out for me. I mean, not the picking up chick stuff, but the guitar.
I mean, you could just walk around with the case out in public, and just play it off, I guess,
Right. So I mean, so it had its moments. I mean, playing in the band and playing guitar. Sometimes you get lucky, and maybe you'll meet a fairly decent woman that will help you out a little bit with your male testosterone problems.
It's like taking a cute puppy to the dog park or something if he's well behaved, and
well, I think that's actually a great idea. If I had to go back in time, I would have got a dog when I first moved out, because my level of proficiency with women would have went way up.
yeah at the grungy corner bars, where you play music, don't really get the pick of the litter. But so you start playing, you took it serious, started learning how to play. And, what kind of what you mentioned Elton John was one of your influences, but as you got older and really start getting into guitar, who kind of influenced you to focus on your playing?
I mean, when I was, obviously when I was, a kid, kind of coming up, I met a friend in school who was, same age and stuff like that, but he was, came from a musical family. He played guitar also, and he was way more advanced, than I was as a guitar player, because he had been playing a couple of years. So, and he was kind of like a naturally gifted guy that when it came to playing music, because of his family background because his dad was a musician, his mom was a musician, his sister was a musician. They all played, you know, various different types of music. So it was he was a good person for me to bounce off because he taught me a lot, you know. And we kind of like, it was, you know, we just kind of like dived to being in a band. We found a kid in school to play drums, and we found a kid that played, you know, a little bit of bass. We had like 1 or 2 amplifiers. We everybody plugged into the shit, and then we had a friend that just wanted to scream into the microphone, and we started doing crap like Foreigner and UFO and AC/DC and whatever, you know, whatever that was at the time, and just, you know, learn how to play songs. So I just kind of like dove in. I mean, just like I picked up the guitar pretty quickly as far as like the basics. So we would just jam on, you know, tunes that we could, you know, knock out and, you know, make sound cool. I mean, like obviously like stuff like Black Sabbath and whatever else, but you know, it was pretty quick, and then it just progressed from there. And I just kept getting better and kept getting a little bit more serious and involved in it.
Yeah, and because I was reading, you know, it looks like as time went on, you know, guitar's, you know, not, you know, one of the only instruments you play. You've gone on to do bass and keyboards as well. Like, what was that transition like?
For me, it's just a necessity thing. I mean, bass is, you know, it's so similar to guitar in so many ways. I mean, as far as, you know, the rudiments about, you know, if you can hit an A note on a guitar, you can hit an A note on a bass. But, you know, it's just, you know, rewiring your brain and realize that the bass does not need to be following the guitar the whole time, and you need to kind of, you know, change it up and follow the drums. And, you know, but I was very aware of that because, you know, I would always love the sound of bass. I always loved bass playing. I actually love playing the bass because, you know, it's just a fun instrument to play. You know, keyboards is, you know, I'm just like, you know, I'm a shitty keyboard player. It's just more like, you know, to add orchestration, to add depth to the tunes, you know, then I'll lay down some, you know, keyboard parts and stuff like that, come up with some, you know, simple melodies, because that just comes from my, you know, love of listening to like, you know, soundtrack type stuff and movie, you know, orchestration. And I think it sounds really cool to add that to it. And so I just, you know, decided, hey, you know what? Nobody else is going to do it, and nobody's going to be able to, you know, I have to teach it to somebody, or I have to kind of explain to somebody. So why not just do it myself? It's just a matter of necessity on my end. That's it.
Gotcha. And then you said you had gotten with some of these friends in high school, and then you guys would get together and jam. But did you actually start playing out as a band too?
Oh yeah, we did. We had a band. I can't even remember the name of the band's name now, but we used to play all the high school parties, keggers, all that stuff. We were playing at the time whatever was, you know, popular metal stuff. We were playing Saxon, we were playing Scorpions, Judas Priest, Accept, you know, we were just playing all the underground metal stuff, Iron Maiden, you know, all those bands that were big during that time, right before, you know, the whole kind of thrash thing took off. We were kind of like, you know, doing the stuff that was a little bit earlier than that. And so we took it very seriously, and then you know, and that's, you know, basically how to learn how to play, man. I mean, if you're gonna like cover like, you know, balls to the wall, man, you better like, you know, get your chops up and learn how to figure out how to play that shit. So, yeah, you know, and we did. You know, I mean, and the good thing about it is that, you know, the aforementioned guitar player guy had a fantastic ear. He was able to figure out stuff really easy. He had a really good understanding of theory and things like that. So he would just like, he would figure out a tune. He'd show me how to play the tune, and then I would just learn it real quick, and we would, you know, get it together, get all the harmonies and guitar parts together. But he couldn't write for shit. I mean, he couldn't write a song to save his life. He could like copy people's shit, but he couldn't write shit. So, and I'm like, hey man, why don't we try to do one of our own tunes? And like, people are like, well, who's going to write it? I'm like, I'll write it. So then I started writing very early because it was easier for me to learn how to write, and because I could just come up with my own riff, and I didn't have to worry about like playing like, you know, kick it down his part, right, or whatever. You know, I would just play whatever I had, you know, I thought was going to work, and that's just how kind of, you know, I became more into the songwriting thing than I did, you know, just being a guitar player. So
nice. And then I read that you do some of the vocals as well. Like, you know, how was that transition?
I do a lot of really shitty vocals. The stuff that sounds like shit. No, I mean, I am definitely not. I mean, my stuff that I, you know, contribute to records and stuff like that is like, maybe if it's like character voices, like for instance, the title track of the new record was all the like little satanic chants and the whole black mass thing in the beginning of that tune. I did all that because I mean, I already know what I want it to sound like, so I'll just kind of like change my voice, and I can do that. Okay, I can do the character stuff and the backups and stuff, but I'm not singing like harmonies with the singer. I mean, he's gonna be doing that. I mean, I'm capable like doing maybe a little bit of stuff here and there, but I'm not in the same league as that guy, so that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I was checking out some of your stuff too, and I was just like, it kind of reminded me a little bit of King Diamond and stuff, with some of those notes that he was hitting.
Yeah, I mean,
any influence with Merciful Fate and all that too? Or?
Oh yeah, that definitely. I mean, I think that that if you want to look at the music overall, you could definitely hear where the influences are from. There's definitely Merciful Fate in there. There's definitely some King Diamond in there. Some definitely some Priest, some Maiden, whatever. It's all there. It's pretty. I wear it pretty pretty well on my sleeve. It's just like, hey man, this is the kind of stuff I like. This is what I like doing. We do it in our own way and make it a little bit different, but it's there. And I mean, obviously, working with Andy LaRock, he's obviously he's got the whole King Diamond thing going on. And I mean, I never try to just go too far that direction, but it's cool to do that. He's played on some of our records too, and it's not. I mean, I try to get him to join the band a couple of times, but he's like, man, I just can't work for soda. So, but no, I mean, it's just like So we have a good relationship, and you can definitely hear those influences there. So
nice. And then, so when did like Kill Ritual come to be?
Well, I mean, I was in a band in the Bay Area for a long time. I mean, it was probably maybe close to 15 years called the Magic. It was more of like a thrash band. We were pretty well known underground thrash band from the Bay Area. Kind of more, a little bit. I would say it was kind of like power metal and thrash metal. Kind of close to like some stuff like Nevermore, stuff like that. We put out like, I don't know, 6, 7 records. I can't remember now. It's like we put a lot of stuff out. And then, we toured Europe a couple times, and we were just, definitely in that direction. But when that band disbanded, then, then I decided to keep, continue on and do something different. And then I, decided to do Kill Ritual. And with Kill Ritual, I decided, you know what, I'm going to control this thing a little bit more than I did with the other band. The other band was, far more collaborative. And, it was like the singer and I wrote all the music. I said, the next time around, I'm going to be like a little bit more directive, and I'm going to control it. So that's basically how Kill Ritual came to be. And I just kept plugging away, just doing it and just, making it happen. So that's all you can do.
Nice. And then, what was like the, the inspiration behind, coming up with that name for the band Kill Ritual?
Oh man, it's one of those kind of things. I really hate, having to come up with band names. It's just like the hardest thing ever. It was just one of those kind of, we had a discussion. I wanted it to be like, sound, cool and memorable and heavy. I'm like, okay, well, so somebody in the band, I think it was a bass player at the time. He was Lakota, Indian from South Dakota, and he said, hey man, there's like, when there's that old hunting ritual when you get your first kill, you wipe the blood on your face and do that whole thing. It's kind of a Native. It's in basically every culture. Native Americans, Europeans. Anyway, everybody's always done it for the first kill when they take their kids out, and it's kind of like it's always been referenced as a kill ritual to wipe the first blood on your first kill. So I'm like, oh, that might be kind of a cool name, Kill Ritual. I mean, it has like some kind of death metal connotations and shit to it. I mean, I don't know if it was like 100% fits our music, but I mean, at that point, I was just like, we just got to come up with a name, just something that works, and it says metal. So we decided on that. It is what it is, and I mean, we could have called ourselves like Fairy Elf Dust or something like that. I don't know, but I mean, it's really hard, to find something that works. It hasn't been taken on top of it, So yeah.
Well, I think Kill Ritual will get better crowd chants than Fairy Elf Dust.
Yeah, Fairy Elf Dust. I mean, we could have called it, Goblin Fart or something like that. Goblin Fart. I mean, I don't know.
But it's funny too, because I was like, and maybe I'm going like too deep or whatever, but and I like your explanation about what Kill Ritual is, but I'm like, you know, man, it almost feels like, you know, we're experiencing that globally, you know, that there's some sort of like powers that be, that things are just looking bleak. There's, you know, issues with the food supplies, issues with the disease and war and pestilence. And you guys sing about a lot of those things in your songs and everything. So it almost feels like Kill Ritual is going on worldwide right now anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think the unfortunate thing is that, you know, that you know, some of that stuff is actually, you know, realistic what's going on right now. I mean, obviously, you mentioned before that, you know, you were in the military, and you've had a lot more experience with like seeing things that other people don't get to see than I have, and that a lot of people don't have. You know, I mean, and just seeing how things have, like, you know, changed. I mean, I'm not a negative person by any means. I've always been a very positive person, and, you know, even though I write music that, you know, is dark, and I, you know, use, you know, certain lyrical content to, you know, to work with the music, it's not like, you know, if I do stuff that's going to be like, you know, sounds like a satanic and it's got dark lyrics, you know, I'm the farthest thing from that. I mean, to me, it's all like just, you know, kind of like a movie or whatever else. It's just like, just because you're in a horror movie or you write a horror movie doesn't mean you're a serial killer. It's just, it's a form of entertainment to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And see, you know, seeing the, you know, things that are happening right now in America and what's going on. I mean, I have very strong, you know, personal opinions about politics and whatever else, and I'll let that leak into the music a little bit, but not 100%, because I just think it's, you know, who am I to tell you what to believe? I don't have a right to do that at all. I mean, I can give you a hint of how I believe, but that's up for people to interpret. But you know, going back to the name, say, well, you know, it's about Kill Ritual. I don't look at the name as a negative thing. I look at the, you know, the name as just like, you know, it's just like saying Megadeth. You know,
Yeah.
You know, it's like, is that a negative name? I mean, yeah. I mean, if you look at the context of what it means, Megadeth. I mean, but the band's far from that, man. I mean, their music is really, you know, affirmative. I mean, when I listen to Megadeth, I just hear, you know, positivity. You know, even though they're talking about dark shit, it's like it's positive. It makes you feel good. So that's what the point
yeah
is.
And it's like, you know, Dave is even admitted, you know, I mean, he's exposing, you know, the hypocrisy of a lot of what's going on in society, in the world, and you know, I guess the global governments and stuff like that, you know.
Yep.
I mean, they want to keep us all distracted, killing each other off, while the fat cats are, you know, sitting at the table.
That's the absolute truth. You know, they want to keep people dumb. They want to keep you stupid. They want to make you pretend that everything's okay. If you just walk through life just going, hey man, everything's okay, you know, you need to rethink that, you know, a little bit. You need to go a little bit deeper than that, because it's not that, you know. So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, people definitely need to pay more attention. Like they say, you know, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. And I guess there's a lot of us old enough that are like, wait a minute, this movie looks familiar. You know,
yes,
I didn't like how it ended, you know, originally. And let's try and switch the ending up a little bit.
the shit looks familiar, and I think the thing that people need to realize is that, you know, a lot of people just go, well, you know what, I can't agree with either one, either way. I'm just not going to care at all, and just pretend it's going to go away. But I've always been the one, man. You know, you just kind of have to look at both sides of the coin and pick the lesser of two evils, which is basically what everything's about. Man. Just pick the one that's going to be a little bit more productive for people, because they all have the same motive. It's all about control. It's all about putting you in a place where they can take advantage of you to make money. It's all about money, man. It's all it is about.
Yeah, and I like that, you know, you had even said, like, yeah, you believe a certain way strongly, but it's like, you know, it's not your place to try and convince people to, you know, believe a certain way. You know, there's a lot of musicians I've seen that came out, and I'm just like, dude, come on, man. You know, how about we just, you know, leave the door open? It almost like when you're forcing your opinion on somebody else, and then, like, you know, and then there's so many being censored and silenced. It's like, how can we find where our middle ground is if one side can't even speak, you know?
And that's true. I mean, you know, if you ask me my personal opinion in private, then I'll give you my personal opinion. Yeah. If you don't like it, whatever. I mean, that's my personal opinion, but I don't have the right in a public sense to tell you that you're wrong. I mean, because I may disagree with you, and I may have a a very strong opinion of why I disagree with you, but I'm a believer in that. You know what? You as a person have the choice to make any decision you want to do. You have free will, and free will is really what it's all about. If you choose to believe a certain way, that's your right, and I can't tell you to do that. What you can do. I just don't like what I don't like is the platforms that gives people the right to say, you know what I believe is right, or and if you say that I'm wrong, or you say that that what I feel is not okay, then I'm going to cancel you, and I'm going to tell you that, oh, that's you're a racist, or you're a homophobe, or you're whatever terms they want to use for people that don't agree with their opinion. And and I'm far from that. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I don't give a crap about any of that crap. I mean, my wife is Indian. My kids are biracial, but I have strong opinions about certain things. But that doesn't make me a racist for who I vote for, or doesn't make me a homophobe for who I vote for, or what I believe. It's just because that's what I believe. But it doesn't matter in the long run, because it's about what you believe.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, it's like talking about my time in the military, and I know so many others that serve. We all serve to give everybody the right to have their opinion.
That's right.
Everybody has the right to share what they believe. We didn't give you the right though to silence the ones that you disagree with.
100%.
Everybody should have a place at the table.
I'm saying, I mean, and people need to appreciate the fact that that you were willing to do that. And a lot of people don't. They don't have the respect for the veterans, and they don't have the respect for what was going on and what you guys went through. And the old singer from the band was he was a Marine for 6 years. I mean, so he went through the military too. And I mean, and it's interesting because you hear he told me stuff that that you don't really get to hear or see in the public forum of the media and what's going on, because that's boots on the ground shit. And he's like, he's telling you the truth with what he was doing while he was sitting in the fucking desert in Egypt. So I mean, that's just the way it is, and it's nice to get that perspective, and it needs to be appreciated that there's a lot more to everything that everybody realizes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And then I was reading in your guys' bio that you guys were actually pretty productive, stayed pretty productive during the COVID shit show that we were talking about earlier.
It was a shit show.
Yeah. I mean, it still feels like it's one. It's kind of gone back to somewhat normal, but I don't know. As I found out today, I don't know how back to normal it is. At least I got a home studio, so I can do this. The show can go on.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys, like I said, you guys are pretty productive during your downtime, and still were able to, like, I think put out like several albums or singles or something during that time. You want to talk about how you were able to make that happen?
Well, I mean, it's like that when the whole COVID thing had happened, we had already had an album, pretty much in the can, except for vocally, and then we changed vocalists right before we did the last bit of recording. But anyways, it's just long story short is that when we got done towards that time, we had just finished up a big U.S. tour with Iced Earth and Sanctuary, and I had pretty much written a record, and we went into the recording phase of it. Then after we got done with all the basic tracking and stuff, we're about ready to do vocals. Then our singer left, and he left the band. He decided that he wasn't going to be continuing with us. Then we had to refocus, and I had to kind of like not rewrite the tunes, but just had to change the focus of the band as far as lyrically and whatever. We had to do the singer search, and then we got Brian Chalice into the band and do the vocals on that record. But then that's when COVID was really kicking down. It was like, okay, well then we had to figure out how are we going to release this? What are we going to do? And by that time, we had been sitting on this thing for a while, and I was like, man, I'm not going to let this thing rot for 2 years. I mean, I kind of knew that when the whole COVID thing came down, I'm like, man, this shit is going to go on forever, man, because it's just like just the way that they were approaching it, and just the way that the governments were, really blowing it up. Yeah. So we decided, hey, you know what? Let's just go ahead and just get a record done, release it, on our own. And we work with Nuclear Blast's digital division. to release it. And then we had some material left over, and we had an opportunity to do an EP. So we decided, hey, let's finish up the leftover material and write some new stuff. And we did an EP to kind of bring in those gaps. So every year, my goal was like, hey, every year we should try to come out with a product while we're sitting around doing nothing, not touring. If we were touring, it would have been different. But if we're not out playing live, we gotta keep busy. Because the guys, I know this for years and years of dealing with musicians, man. If you don't like have an active brain and you're not doing something, you're gonna get bored really quick. And that's because we have limited brain cells, so yeah. We can only keep ourselves happy for so long before we start, like doing heroin and drinking too much. So we just kept active.
Or just lose interest in playing,
Yeah, just lose interest in playing, or just whatever, find some girlfriend that's really bad for you, and she's like, she's a meth head, takes all your money. Yeah. Which a few of us have been through, but I mean, so we just say, let's just keep active, because it paid off. If we keep active, we keep putting stuff out, and we just keep building the product and the name. By the time we came out with this record, we had already kind of like this. People were understanding. We didn't go away. We didn't disappear. We just kept chugging along. So we're going to keep doing the same thing.
Gotcha. And then, so now, we're up to, the current album,
right?
Which comes out later this month. It's quite a mouthful. Kill Star, Black Mark, Dead Hand, Pierced Heart.
Right.
What is that, like some Edgar Allan Poe or something? Or
yeah, I totally came up with that title just to fuck with people like you. And so you gotta read this fucking thing. Nice. No, it was just that was a song that I came up with, and that was the chorus of the song. And I'm like, that's kind of an interesting, idea for an album title. Was it probably the greatest idea? I don't know, man. It's just like nobody. It's like
got my attention, so it makes me kind of look into it.
I think it was cool about you could either call the record Kill Star, you could call it Dead Hand, you can call it Pierced Heart, you can call whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it just kind of like had a.
But I ain't no quitter. I'm going all the way through.
It was just something different. It's just like, well, let's just try to do something different, make it kind of like a little bit more unique. Who knows? I don't know. There wasn't much thought into it on that.
I mean, it definitely sticks out. Got my attention. So right. November 18th, that comes out on Massacre Records. How long you guys been working with Massacre now?
This is gonna be the first record with them. I mean, the record in Europe, it already came out on the 28th of this last month. So it's been out in Europe for, by the time it comes out in the US, it's gonna be like maybe 2 weeks. So then so we're just doing the US promotion and stuff now for it. But yeah, it's our first record with them. It's cool. I mean, actually, to tell you the history, that my old band Magico was actually on Massacre Records way back in the day. I don't know, maybe like our second or third record, I think it was. So they have a history with me. They know that what kind of stuff I play and write. So they were pretty familiar with what I do. And then
so it made conversation about getting to work with them a lot easier, get your foot in the door, because they've already worked with you.
Yeah, I mean they have the history. I mean we never we put out a couple records with different labels. We were on another label called Scarlet for a while out of Italy, but Massacre is definitely a step up for the band. It's it's a lot better label. They have a lot better promotion and a bigger footprint on the scene. So it should be good. It should be good all the way around for the band, and then we have plans for next year to kind of like get back on the horse and do some touring in Europe and the United States, and I think it's okay, because I think that things are still kind of in flux. I think there's been a lot of weird shit that's been going on with bands. Some bands have been able to pull off tours, and some bands have not. So at our level, and the cost is going to the cost to the band, and how much money is involved that we got to put together and deal with. I don't really want to go out and lose a shitload of money on a tour, so we have to just make sure it's all right for the situation.
Yeah, gotcha. Fuel prices and everything. I mean, just like You
Yeah,
know, I mean, I was reading about diesel and everything, and I'm like, don't most tour buses run on diesel too? You know?
well, yeah, I'm going to tell you, yeah. I mean, when we did the Ice Door Sanctuary tour, I mean, it was like, that was before the whole bullshit, and it wasn't cheap then either. I mean, it was, it was pretty pricey, man. It was, that was an expensive tour, and luckily we came out of that fucking thing alive. But, it was great because we were able to sell enough, merch and T-shirts and CDs and do well enough on the road that we could, support a tour like that. But now, I mean, if we had to operate at the same level, man, I would say no, because how are we going to do it? I mean, if you're not the headliner getting a guarantee and you're basically going out there as an opening act or support act, basically getting a small guarantee and looking to make it up with like merch and sales, it's tough, man, really hard. So
yeah, I agree, man. Just like we were saying earlier, everything comes down to money, and even like the labels are like,
Yep.
what's the pros right now? What's the cons? Like, what are we going to get back for what we're putting out? You
Right.
know? So
yeah, that's true. I mean,
they don't care if like the musician sits home and doesn't eat, they're eating.
Well, I mean, I think if you talk to most musicians want to go out and play live. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole point of this thing. Is it's like, yeah, you can write and do all that shit all the time, but I like to get on stage in front of fans and like riff and rock. I mean, I'm actually pretty at home. I don't talk to anybody. I don't socialize with anybody. But when I'm on the road, I'm a very sociable person. I like to go out and meet the fans. After we get done playing, I go out in the crowd. I mean, I don't give a shit. I'm just like everybody else. So, and I need that aspect of it. And I ain't, and COVID be damned, I'm not going to be walking around not shaking people's hands and stuff. You're going to come out and see me play. I'm going to go out there and shake your hand because that's. I think it's really cool that you actually made the effort. So,
yeah,
gotta make sure it's the right circumstance to do all that.
Yeah, gotcha. And speaking of like ripping for the fans and looking forward to getting out and playing for everybody, is there, I know it's like asking what who's your favorite kid almost, but is there a track from this upcoming album that you're really looking forward to playing in front of a live crowd?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, probably the tune that I would really want to play live, because I just think it'll go over well live, just because it's it's heavy and it's cool, is The Smell of Death. I think that tune is really cool. It's a band favorite. It's kind of like a little bit darker and heavier than we probably do, but it's got some cool vocal melodies. I like the opening track quite a bit, By the Hand of God. Another one of my favorites is the closing track, The Devil, the Mist, and the Flame. I think that is epic, but I don't know if we can play that live, depending on what slot we're playing, because it's it's almost 9 minutes long. So that's kind of a huge endeavor to play that, But yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like a lot of times when we go to the rehearsals and we're going to tour, the songs we think we're going to play, they sound like shit, or they just don't translate well with the whatever we're doing. They just don't feel right with the set list, and then we'll just change it up to something that flows a little bit better. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and speaking of The Hand of God, I was checking out the video for that, and it was definitely a visual, quite a spectacle. Who was like the visionary behind putting that, creating that video?
The guy that I've been working with for a while on some of our stuff his name is Rafael Ortegas, and he's kind of the guy that puts a lot of the visuals together. But I mean, the idea behind what I wanted the visuals to be like was mine, because the song is basically just a song about religious wars, crusades, or whatever the point we're at, fighting Muslims or fighting Christians or whatever, whoever we're fighting, and how they always try to tie in the religious aspect and say we're doing this for God. This is where God's on our side, and it was just about that person who's involved in it, realizing that you only have one life, and you're going to die alone. Nobody's going to die with you. People may die around you or actually die at the same time, but you're going to die alone. Nobody else is going to die in your mind. So it was just like realizing that you're wrong. Maybe that you thought you were doing everything for this God or this cause, but maybe it was not the right cause that you thought it was, and you're dying for no reason at all. That's basically what the song's about.
I got you. And it's, I mean, talking even from my like own experience, I'm looking back at how much of a unlearning all the things that I was, you know, I was taught even from a youth, you know, and what were ways to motivate and control me to do things that I normally wouldn't do, you know.
Yeah.
And religion is a very powerful tool for stuff like that. You know, like I still have a higher power, you know, in Jesus Christ, you know, that I believe in, that I walk with in my recovery and stuff. But you know, I know that, you know, he's not the military's version that wanted me to go kill a bunch of, you know, brown people and stuff that I don't know, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's exactly that. I mean, you know, it's you know, I like you were talking about earlier. We were talking about earlier about you know telling people what to believe and what's right or wrong based upon. It's all about personal experience. I mean, you know, me personally, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any of that crap. But you know, I'll write about it and I'll talk about it from my perspective as a person who sees religion as kind of a, you know, a means to an end or a tool or you know something that's used as a form of control. But then, you know, I have people in my family that are very religious, and and that gives them comfort, and that gives them solace, and that gives them, you know, the things that they need in order to be who they are. So I can't tell you what to believe in, you know, and I don't have the right to do that. And you should be able to believe in whatever you believe in. You know, I was raised, you know, in a Irish Catholic family. You know, and
me too.
not my thing, but you know what? But I do appreciate the, you know, the traditions, and I do appreciate the commitment to it because it makes you a better person. So
yeah, it's like, I mean, like you're saying, like it's not my place to shove something on other people too. You know, I learned that my whole life where there was a point where I actually walked away altogether, and I don't know if I was ever an atheist because I always kind of had some belief, but then there was a part where I just like I hated what I believed in, and I hated, you know, this whole thing. So I was just like the opposite and the anti for the longest time. And then it's like, you know, as part of my journey in recovery, I realized, you know, that, you know, I can, you know, have one of my own understanding, and what everybody preaches from the pulpit might not be what I agree with, but, you know, but like you said, it's not my place to go evangelize and tell everybody else, you know, that this is the only way, and knock on doors and, you know, all that stuff. That's just not me.
100%, man. 100%.
And then, you know, the video for Horror of War, speaking of war, I was checking out that lyric video, and I don't think I've ever heard "Suck Her Tits" used in a metal song before. I was impressed with that. But then also, I like the imagery of the chessboard and the battlefield, because it goes back to like what we were saying, you know, about the powers that be, the people in control. They're sitting, we're the pawns, and they're making the moves, you know, and putting us in those positions.
That's exactly. I mean, I think that the tune is just basically about how it's about the glorification of war and battle, and how she's a very tempting mistress, you know, like where people, you know, get involved in things, go, yeah, we're going to kill and we're going to do all this stuff. We're going to be like, you know, for our God. And, you know, kind of the same. That's why the two tunes are back to back, you know, by the hand of God and the Horror Wars, because they kind of tell the same story and kind of a continuation of the story about, you know, how war is like that ideal about it gets glorified, and it's, you know, and obviously, you know from being in the military, there ain't nothing glory about war at all. If you're going to be in violence, you're going to get killed and kill people. I mean, that's some heavy shit, man. So it's like,
yeah, I mean, nobody comes home unharmed, you know. It's like I deal with, and you know, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of, since I've been home too, just like, you know, well, you look all right, you got all your limbs, you know, why are you, you know, this and that, you know, and why are you like that? And just like, you know, well, you know, not everybody comes home like unwounded. There's wounds you don't see as well. And part of my therapy for myself to get out of myself is doing this. You know, I do this podcast now so I can start talking to people, and I can start talking about subjects like this and have these conversations. This is like a therapy session for me. I mean, you know, you're getting the band and everything, and I get to, you know, come out of my shell and feel better for, you know, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, music is a therapy. You know, music is I was reading an interesting article, and it was I saw an interview, and it was with Shaquille O'Neal, and he was like, "Hey man, the two greatest things in the world are sports and music, because it brings people together where they forget about shit, like all the politics, all the other crap, because they're just going to enjoy themselves." And that's true, man. I mean, you go to a sporting game, man. If I'm a 49er fan. If I go to a 49er game, I don't know, maybe a guy I would never talk to in my whole life because he just, has whatever. But if he's wearing a 49er shirt, then he's instantly a friend because we're fans. And we're at that game, combined together, like with metal. When I go to a concert, man, it's basically a tribe.
How many people in a Slayer shirt? You're like, Slayer.
Yeah. It's the way it is, and it's a unification of people that may have very dissimilar backgrounds and may have totally different ways of approaching life, but they have that common bond of the music or sports or whatever. So I think that's and that's cool, man. I mean I think that really is important stuff because it makes us human towards each other.
Yeah, and and I agree 100% with you on that. But it's just like. But also you got to find that balance because like we were talking about earlier, you can't bury your head in the sand and what's going on in the world. Like, I've got some friends that are just like, dude, think about this, play this movie through, play this scenario through. Right. Just like, I can't be bothered with right now. I'm watching and I'm in Cleveland. So they're using the Cleveland Browns as an excuse, to avoid stuff. I'm like, come on, man, that ain't even a good enough excuse, but sometimes you got it's good to have that escape. And I agree, I like that. I can't stay in the fear, I got to get out and enjoy myself like I did this weekend at the concerts and stuff. But, I got to balance like reality because like I'm a father and we got kids that are going to have to grow up and what's going to be left. What are we doing to make their life better?
Yeah. I mean, it's important to think about, future generations and what's going to happen, without turning it into like a total, just, I don't know. People have really weird ideas of what they think is going on politically in this country. I still think when it basically comes down to it, I think that we're all Americans. And I think we really have a certain way that we think, Democrat, Republican, whatever. And there may be a lot of adversity, coming from both sides, but when it comes down to it, most people are going to be, smart enough to realize, what, we got to make this work because you can't let these people, fucking control you the whole time. So you got to make it work.
Well, I was telling my friends the other day, actually at the Hatebreed show, they're getting a little philosophical, there at the Hatebreed show. But, I was just like, dude, I grew up on pro wrestling, big wrestling fan, and, we hated this guy that came out of this, supposedly this is, came out of that behind that curtain to talk smack and fight this guy. The guy that we like comes out of the same curtain and we're cheering him and love him. And they both go back to the same locker room. And that's politics,
No, they're just playing a role. They're just, it's entertainment, man. It's just like, but it brings you guys all together because, it's always cool to have an adversary because, it's just fun to have an adversary. You know what I mean? It's just, you have an adversary in sports or like wrestling or it's good. As long as it's done in the correct context of like, where it's not harmful and you're not hurting another person, it should be cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a
but, I mean, that was just my explanation for the people that are so diehard one party line, that they're not willing to look at. Like I'm willing to admit that, my quote unquote parties, like which I'm not really affiliated with one. I mean, I'm kind of more a moderate, or down the line libertarian type, but it's they're both kind of pulled, the strings are pulled by the same people. He's just hitting on subjects that pull at my heart more than the other guy is, but I can see the big picture, so I'm not going to fall on the sword of this one blue or red, Crips and Bloods here.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just all about common sense. I mean, it's like both parties have some, some things that make sense, and there is common sense on both sides, but there's also a lot of bullshit on both sides. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
And you know, we're in a two-party America, and that was back to my comment about, you know, I'm just going to pick the lesser of two evils. I mean, I tend to be a little bit more of a conservative person. I tend to be more on the, you know, on the Republican side. I'm an NRA member. You know, I love my guns just as much as my guitars, and I don't care if that offends people or not. Especially in California, the Bay Area, I offend a lot of people, you know, because of my opinion. But you know what? I was born here and I grew up here.
You're not outlawed there yet.
You know what? So if I'm listening to somebody's opinion from some, you know, guy that just flew in from New Delhi, India, and he's pissed off because I'm a Republican, then I really don't give a shit. Because, you know, dude, you know, I've been here a while, so I have a right to my opinion. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, I would say that a lot of stuff that's gone the past couple of years have maybe pushed me a little bit farther towards, you know, the right, but you know, I try and always recenter. I always try and like kind of recenter, because it's like I'm not doing any favors by broad brushing everybody, you know, that feels one way, you know, has strong opinions about one topic, that they also have strong opinions about all these other outrageous topics that I can't stand coming from that side, you know? So I always try and remind myself that, but yet they're the first to jump on me and be like, you know, shut me down and mute me.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, both sides have, you know, some serious issues. So I think that just, you know, being able to, you know, comprehend what, you know, the shit that both of them are trying to feed you, and digest that, and just decide things for your, you know, yourself about what, you know, you consider to be right and wrong. But I definitely don't think that, you know, what's going on right now with the, you know, current administration, and, you know, and is taking us in the right direction. I mean, I have no problem with it. You know, with what's, you know, where I think we're trying to go in a direction that's ultimately will be the right direction as far as like energy and things like that in the planet go. But you know what? It takes time. It takes it's a slow, progressive effort to do that. Just like anything else, you can't change that shit right away. And when it comes down to it, man, you know, if you're taking money out of people's pockets, and it's hard for families to, you know, survive in a country, and you're making them really work extra hard to feed their kids, and are cutting down meals, and cutting down, it's just not going to work for Americans. Americans are used to a certain, you know, way of living, and to try to think that you're going to tell them this, you know, that they have to suck it up, Buttercup, it's going to be tough, man. I think that you're
well, I'll be in one of my 6 homes. You guys got to suck it up over there, you know, at your tax dollars expense.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, get me in on some of that inside trading, and maybe, you know, I can turn a blind eye, but no.
I mean, you know, the average American wants to do, the average American wants, you know, they want to have a good job. They want to be able to pay their bills. They want to be able to afford a life that they can, you know, they can afford. They want to take care of their family, take care of their kids. And they just don't want to have to sit there and, you know, and listen to endless shit all the time. You know, or, you know, like, you don't want to be overtaxed. You know, you don't want to be, you know, paying $19 a gallon for gas, because there's no reason to do that. If there was a reason to do that because all the oil in the world was gone, then you would suck it up, Buttercup. But we know it's just bullshit politics and lies. So it's not going to
happen. Yep. Well, hopefully, you know, we'll see something happen here next week, you know. So to put you on tour.
I have a pretty strong feeling some shit's gonna go down next week. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, man, because you know, the album comes out here on what, the
18th, I think, 18th,
right? Yeah. And you know, people want to be able to buy it and enjoy it and go see you guys live. How would
I want diesel fuel to be under $17 a gallon.
Yeah, exactly. So your vote counts, man. You want to bring Kill Ritual to your town. You got to you know, make a difference. But so like, if people are, you know, want to, you know, are new to hearing about you guys and want to check you out and support the album coming out, where would you send them?
I would send them to, you know, the best place to probably go and just get every bit of information and get every link possible to where you can find our music would be to go to our record label as a website. It would be massacrerecords.com. They have everything you would need to know about the band and everything you need to do to hook up with the music.
Nice. And then real quick, Steve, before I let you go, I want to ask you a couple of questions I normally ask guests that I have on. I feel like I'm getting my second win here, but you know, as soon as we're done, I'm gonna go to bed. But top 3 musical artists.
Top 3 musical artists for me. As far as bands go, my number 1 band is my favorite band of all time is Judas Priest. One of the bands that when I got into them younger, I saw them open up for UFO when I was like 14, and it was back, you know, when Neanderthals and dinosaurs, but blew me away. Incredible band. I just like, after that, I was a lifelong fan. My other 2, you know, musical heroes as far as guitar playing and stuff goes is Richie Blackmore. Love Richie Blackmore's playing. Just I love everything about the guy's persona, his playing. And then number 3 would be Michael Schenker. I mean, I'm a huge Michael Schenker fan, so I just love his melodicism and his way of playing and everything else. And then he's just both those guys are just phenomenal for my opinion, for the guitar playing standpoint.
Nice. And then you know, this ought to be fun, you know, with some of the conversations we've been having. But what class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
What I think should be mandatory, graduate high school. Okay, I'm gonna give you I think it's a really good class that everybody's taking. I took this, and that's another one of my, you know, if I didn't play music, I would be a chef. So I love cooking, and I love to cook. I love the whole concept. And that would probably be, if I didn't play music, it'd be another career choice. I would have went into the professional cooking restaurant, whatever thing, culinary arts. So I would say they should bring back, and they should have, you know, home ec for kids, so you can at least learn how to cook a meal to support yourself, so you don't end up like my wife doesn't know how to cook shit. Which is okay, but I mean, I think that's really important. I mean, and learn how to balance a checkbook, because if you're gonna pass any course in math, learn how to balance a checkbook so you know how much money you got. That'll pretty much solve all your problems.
Yeah, I don't know if you could do it with Common Core. You might be there a while. You know?
If you can eat and you have money, you're good to go, man. Everything else will fall in line.
Exactly. Gotcha. And then 3 people who've inspired you or you could credit for making you the person you are today.
Oh, wow. Inspired me. Oh, wow.
They don't have to be musicians, like anybody out through life.
I probably wasn't going to use a musician anyways. I mean, I guess for inspiration, I think that I'm gonna be kind of weird about that. I'm gonna say that, you know, myself. I mean, I've had a, you know, very strong goals in my life to say, you know what, man, I just got to believe in myself first and foremost, and I got to make this work and do that. Whether it was like, I moved out when I was 18, I got a job, you know, had to support myself, and, you know, never went back home. You know, I just always said, man, I got to keep moving forward. I got to keep doing this thing, not referencing anything that other people, you know, get inspiration from. It was just about a belief that I could, you know, do things my way and do it for myself. You know, as far as like other aspirations, I mean, I have a lot of, you know, like just things in life in general, like, you know, just like the people that, you know, are positive. It could be anybody that's positive. That you hear something, you know, somebody talk. I mean, I saw an interview a while back with, you know, Morgan Freeman, and, you know, it was like, he was such a positive guy, and he, you know, he just came off and said, hey, you know what? A lot of people try to keep me down. You know, when I was younger, a lot of people told me about race and told me about all this bullshit. And he said a phrase, he said, man, if you don't like the town you're in, buy a fucking bus ticket and go someplace else. And just that phrase, that really made sense to me. You know, if you don't like what you're doing, change it. You know, I mean, just do something else. You know, and everybody's capable of that. And, you know, and other people think, well, I'm just stuck in this rut. You know, you're not stuck in a rut if you don't want to be. You can change things. It ain't going to happen overnight. You ain't going to do it in 2 seconds. But if you just have that goal, then you'll be able to, you know, achieve some of the things you want to achieve, and just learning to be happy with that. You know, and I think that's really what inspires me as a person, is just to be able to see some of the stuff that I worked really hard on, you know, come out to like this point where, you know, we got a record coming up, whatever else. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel, you know, from my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And then favorite toy as a child?
Favorite toy as a child? Oh, okay. Wow. I'm going to. What am I going to say about my favorite toy as a child? Well, probably the thing that I spent the most time on as a child, I probably had my little record player, and I still remembering playing like little singles, like George in the Jungle and all that kind of crap. You just play that record like crazy. So I probably spent, even then I was pretty engrossed with music and stuff like that. So I was, it was probably that, just listening to records and hearing music. I really enjoyed it.
Gotcha. And then we've touched on it a couple times on the military, but any message you have for our military members currently serving overseas?
Yeah, obviously, thank you guys for your service. It's super important, that you guys, do what you do. I mean, it takes a lot to do that, and when people need to, really consider the military as, it's a necessary thing that needs to be there. People need to do it, and the people that do it, should be commended for that. And that's good. What gives me, guys like me, the opportunity to, jack off on the guitar, because you guys are willing to make the effort to do what's right for this country in a lot of ways. And that's a sacrifice that not everybody's willing to do. You guys were willing to do it, so it's much appreciated.
Gotcha. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
And well, Steve, I'm going to get ready and wrap up with you, man. I appreciate you taking the time and being early. One of those few musicians that it was early to the interview. That was awesome.
Yeah, because I have to do another interview when I get done with you. I'm gonna have to say all the same shit, buddy.
All right. Well, good then. I'm glad I give you a little bit of a coffee break in between.
Oh yeah, I appreciate you coming on and taking time to speak with me also, man. It's much appreciated.
Right. And real quick before I let you go, you mind doing me one last favor?
Sure.
Just cut a promo ID for the show. Introduce yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Yep. This is Steve Rice from the band Kill Ritual, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with
awesome
my buddy.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Appreciate it, man.
Yep.
Good talk with you.
Yeah, man. Hey, get well, dude. Take care of yourself.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Take care.
Man. Okay, all right. Cheers. Bye-bye.